Flirties. On the show today, we welcome Dr. Jennifer Wolkin. Dr. Wolkin is a neuropsychologist, writer, professor, and ADHD advocate here today to have a conversation with us about anxiety, overthinking, and perfectionism in dating. Hi, Dr. Wolkin, and welcome to the show.
Hi, call me Jen. Thank you. So grateful that I'm here.
All right, I will call you Jen. Formal for the intro.
Exactly.
And then we'll get a little bit more casual for the conversation. How you doing today?
I'm good. I love this. Let's flirt.
Let's do it. I'm excited for this collaboration. I've been following your pages on Instagram for a little while, really dedicated to ADHD and trauma therapy and recovery, and excited to have a conversation all about the overthinking, right? The perfectionism, those thought loops we can get stuck in, which I know all daters, including myself, experience.
Right. I was going to say, can there be a better can there be a better overthinking and dating? I don't think so.
It's if there's one place we're going to overthink, it's probably in dating.
Yes, and we'll get into it.
Yeah. So I want to get to know you a little bit more at the top and a part of your story. I've been reading some of your articles on brain curves for a while. So just how you got started in this work.
Okay, you sure you want me to answer this?
I'm 100% sure. You can give me the long version, the short version. I
Okay,
always
I'm gonna
say
ramble because I
I
get
love
so
details.
passionate. I get very passionate about
Let's
this.
go, Dr. Jen. Let's do it.
So I didn't really set out to be a neuropsychologist. I actually started as an English major. I was like,
Hmm.
I'm going to be a writer. I'm going to be a poet.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't even know I had ADHD yet. I was just like, I can't finish these books in this comp lit
Ah,
major. And I guess I'm failing, right? Becoming the artist I dreamed of. And I was like, okay, let me pivot to psychology. And I excelled. I realized this wasn't only something I could do, but it was like a real passion.
mm,
And for anyone new to it, so neuropsych studies how the brain maps onto behavior, memory,
yes.
attention, language, emotions, problem solving, and uses assessments to understand real life impacts.
Okay.
And I was just mesmerized by the brain. So I made this switch from English to psychology.
Mm-hmm.
And again, excelled and was like, oh, I can also be of service.
Mm,
And I, during my PhD, which was behavioral medicine and health psychology, so more aligned with mind, body, brain, and there was a
mm-hmm.
neuropsych track.
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of I just fell in love with the brain.
Yeah.
I I had two formative experiences, and thanks for letting me say it because like I said, I get so passionate about it.
I
And
love
I don't
hearing about people's passions. I mean, this is a skill that translates into flirting as well, into your
Yes,
dating lives and relationships. Yes.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Hmm.
So the first experience was dissecting a brain
Like an
and
actual,
an
real.
actual
Oh
brain.
dear. Okay. Not just
I,
figurative or not just literally. You mean figuratively.
yeah,
Like, or no, not
not
figuratively.
just
Actually,
literally,
literally.
yeah.
Yes. Okay. We got there.
And I was just like in awe. I was like this shiny mound of being. I was
Yeah.
like literally like who was this human? What
Yeah.
were their desires and who they connect with and what they study, what they love, what were they passionate about, how they flirt.
Yeah.
And I'm getting the getting the chills as I'm speaking about this. And I was just like, oh, maybe this is poetry. Maybe I didn't lose that. And then the
Okay.
second was actually I scrubbed into intraoperative neuropsych testing. So
Uh-huh.
what they do is, as some neuropsychologists go into like brain surgery
Mm-hmm.
and they wake the patient up
Mm-hmm.
and they ding on the brain
Okay.
specific areas
Okay.
and the patient right like responds they
Mm.
name objects or moves a hand on command, right?
Yeah.
So the surgeon could avoid what we call in the field eloquent matter, the matter that's responsible for language
Okay.
and motor, movement.
Okay.
And just
Huh.
seeing the literal dialogue between brain and behavior was just, oh my gosh. And then I
Oh.
did a 2 year neuropsychology postdoc,
Okay.
and I wasn't like anyone else. I was like, the poet postdoc, and it was at Harvard, so it was
Oh my
very academic.
gosh.
And I was
Yes.
like, I'm going to put the psychology into neuropsychology, and I'm also going to put the poetry into it. And so
Yeah.
between grand rounds and lectures and all the things, I literally would write poems about Wernicke's aphasia, and I'd write essays on phrenology's troubled history and its
Yeah.
place in the field of neuropsych, and I called it
Wow.
neuropoetry. And
Yeah.
then my um, mentor asked me a few years after my fellowship, my postdoc,
Hmm.
so do you want to get board certified in clinical neuropsychology? And I'm like,
Hmm.
do I need to?
Yeah.
And he's like, I mean, you won't be any more or less respected, but there are barriers to who you can test or not without
Okay.
it. So you can't test the cognition of pilots without it. I'm like,
Okay.
okay, thanks. Yeah, I'm gonna go get an MFA in
Yeah.
poetry. And that's what I did. So
That's what
anyway, all that to say, and I don't want to lose this part,
hmm
is that I guess underneath all of it also was a call to be of service. And
mm,
as I'm sure so many of your guests have said, and
hmm
I've listened to it,
hmm
it was also something that hit close to home, right? I've
Yeah.
lived through OCD, like anxiety, and PMDD, premenstrual dysphoric disorder,
Mm.
and I did seek therapy in the 90s and early 2000s,
Hmm.
and I feel like care was what it is today.
Okay.
And the experience humbled me, and I'm like, I want to show up in a way that's more robust and to help people make sense of their minds,
Yeah.
right, with precision, compassion,
Yeah.
um, and safety.
Yeah.
And that's long story long. That's where
Well, thank you for sharing more about yourself and how you got started with this and some of your passions, some of your interests. I feel like if I were in your shoes looking at a literal brain, I also would have had the same experience. Like, what was this person's desires? What were their dreams? Like, what were their flirts like, right?
I
What were their
know,
relationships like this was a
right?
whole, like, this was the motherboard, like the computer for a whole human
Literally
being. Yes.
the motherboard,
Yes, there's
and
a
we
whole
take
lifetime of
exactly.
memories in
we
there. Yeah.
we take it so for granted,
I know,
and
I
it's
know.
like literally it's like what makes us human. It
Yeah,
separates us, right? Our
yeah,
cortex is what separates us from all other mammals out there, and
yeah,
allows us to love and have relationships in the
absolutely.
way that we can.
Yeah,
And of course, that's both blessing and curse.
yeah.
Not curse, but that's fabulous, and also it can lead to anxiety.
Some interesting
some
experiences.
some
Yeah.
interesting experiences.
So I want to ask you now, because one of the big themes I get from your content is this just kind of, yes, self-compassion, but that making peace with our brains, right? Just making peace
Mm,
with how we think and how we move about the world. Because
yeah.
I've also had this experience as someone more neurodivergent, ADHD, where like I did a lot of the traditional stuff and would get the diagnoses, and
Mhm,
they may have been correct, but they were partial, right? It wasn't the whole story. It wasn't painting the whole picture. And so I just want to hear a little bit more about your experience of feeling like, is there something wrong with me? Why isn't
mm,
XYZ thing working? I'm trying
yeah.
to fit in, yet I feel different, right? And so just how
Yeah.
how what was that like?
I mean, that was my experience, right?
Yeah,
Like,
mine too. Yeah.
also, right? I think we can relate. You've
Yeah.
talked about it so vulnerably and openly on the podcast, and I'm so
Mhm.
appreciative because I feel
Hmm.
like speaking about it helps destigmatize.
I hope
And
so. Yeah.
yeah, and the more we talk, the more people, ideally feel less broken and less ashamed. And
Yeah.
I just had this feeling of like something's wrong, something's different. And
Mm,
for my own personal experience, I was getting good grades.
mm,
So people are, the teachers, not throwing them under the bus at all.
mhm.
It's not their jobs. They're my heroes. They, I guess, didn't really know what to do with me. I would blurt out the answers, and I would pass notes and take bathroom break, other things, emotional dysregulation, and
Okay.
just this overall general sense of something's not the same. I'm
Okay.
different.
Yeah.
And I feel like for people, that's like in their formative years, that's profound, right?
Definitely.
That's a lot to bear. That's a lot to hold.
Hmm.
This like felt sense of I'm different. I don't know what that means. I don't know why. I'm like quasi belonging, but not really.
Hmm.
I feel like that's formative.
Yeah.
And so I began this journey to help people embrace their differences
Yeah.
as not broken, but beautiful.
Yes.
And, I actually talked a lot about the fact that what if we lived in a world where there was no elite neurotype? Would we still
Okay.
be neurodivergent? And I got a lot of
Ah,
flack for that because
okay.
people were saying, well, you would still be late and you would still this and you would still need planners. Like they were talking about their own experience as well. And I was
Sure.
like, yes, I hear you. I don't want to minimize your struggle. And
Hmm.
also, would it be a struggle if like we didn't have to be at a 9 to 5 and we could
Mm,
create the life that worked with the rhythm of our brain
mm,
versus a life that was sort of scripted for us?
yeah. Yeah. I can relate to a lot of that. I mean, that's one of the reasons I had to leave my 9 to 5, right? I had to leave the office. It's just like that lifestyle that you have to ugh, it just it the hours, none of it was working for me. And even though I would say I'm working harder now than I ever have before, I traded the fluorescent lights of an office for the fluorescent lights of a grocery store. That wasn't expected or planned, but it happened and I'm
Plot
there and I'm happy to
twist.
be there. Surprise. I It's about designing and creating this life that just works with me and the brain that I have. Yeah.
And that's where I just got the chills. That's the self-compassion part. And I'm
Yeah.
really proud of you, right? Because I think without that self-compassion, you would have stayed in a situation that wasn't serving you. But you
Definitely.
realized, no, like I want more and I can have more.
Mhm.
It just takes a little bit more effort to figure out how to create that
Yeah.
for myself.
Yeah, we talk
So
about a lot about that feeling of alignment in dating relationships just in life. Like I just knew it wasn't like I disliked the work or the job or had like bad coworkers or bad bosses. None of that was true. So it was difficult. It was like, wait, like I'm making a decent income. I work all the my way up to the office with the window. I've got a great boss,
right.
right? Like why am I not happy? Why do I not like
Mm,
this?
mm,
What's wrong? Like with me kind of thing.
yeah.
I wasn't in alignment. It was that constant friction, right?
Mm,
Everything was just so difficult, lacking that passion, that drive, that purpose, which was so different for me because I've always been a pretty self-motivated person, right?
mhm.
I have my niche interests and hobbies, very all or nothing, right? You
Right.
can tell by the podcast. I'm putting out now 3 episodes a week. Like
It's unbelievable.
I missed having that just
Yeah.
like that feeling. Yeah.
I love how you put that alignment and, aligned and unaligned. And I know you just had Britt Frank on. She wrote
Yeah.
Alignment. Yeah, she's, oh
Yeah,
my God, so
amazing.
wonderful. And that book
Mhm.
is wonderful. And she talks about alignment as well.
Yeah,
You'd be surprised. And it's actually sad. And it's a privilege to be able to shift gears,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because there are people who just stay in the status quo for
sure.
multitudes of reasons. I'm not saying privilege in certain ways.
Right.
I'm just saying a lot of people just sit in that status quo and
Mhm.
there's this underneath dysphoria or like just
Mm,
disalignment
yeah,
and just general discontentedness.
yeah,
And you'd be surprised how often I, see people in that space and they
yeah.
come to me like, I am in my 70s and
Mm,
yeah, but
yeah.
here's the thing, it's never too late, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's never I'm a big believer in that. It's never too
Same.
late to make a
Ever.
change. Like, a change starts with just a single moment, a single breath, one
Mm.
decision. Let's get into, yeah, some of the neuroscience now as we've been talking a lot about our careers. But there are
But it all
certainly it
matters.
all matters. There's parallels to dating. I think
Yeah.
a lot of the flirties and everyone listening will have these
Mhm.
experiences in dating of feeling like they're not in alignment, of
Mm.
feeling like there's that friction, of
Yeah.
feeling like they're overthinking everything. And so I'm curious, now transitioning the conversation to dating, what happens in the brain when we are overthinking? What's going on up there?
So here's the thing.
Uh-huh.
It's not a short answer. So
Okay.
you're asking a
I,
neuropsychologist.
give it to me, Jen. I'm so ready.
Okay. Before we dive into like, okay, where does overthinking come from? How does it, develop in the brain?
Yeah.
What sets it off? I think I want to zoom out just a little bit, because overthinking is really part of our brain's larger um, threat system. And dating, of course, triggers that system
Mm,
constantly because
yeah.
dating is full of uncertainty. But so let's zoom out and talk about our larger threat system, and then we'll
Okay.
put back overthinking in context.
Okay.
So here's the chain. We have a fear mechanism, right? This
Okay.
is the most the this is fear is the most basic alarm that we can have.
Mm-hmm.
It's sharp, it's immediate, it's, oh, there's a lion in the bush. I see
Mm-hmm.
it. The
Mm-hmm.
amygdala just fires. And the amygdala is the emotional seat of the brain, and it reacts to clear and present danger. It's like
Yeah.
here, right?
Okay.
And then our body goes into fight or flight. And once the threat passes, the fear ends. It's kind of like, boop. It's like an alarm. Oh, and the lion left. It's no
Mm.
longer in the bush.
Mm-hmm.
Anxiety is different. That happens when danger
Ah.
isn't necessarily clear. It's like the lion isn't there, but maybe it is. I need to scan for it. And
Okay.
so what areas of the brain are used for that is also the amygdala, but I like to nerd out sometimes. And there's what we call this extended amygdala. It's like
Okay.
a different part of the amygdala system.
Uh-huh.
And it's called the BNST. And I forget now. I'm just like, I should have looked this up. It's like bed nucleus, something, something, whatever. But it's
You had
part
me
of
at
the
bed
amygdala.
nucleus, Jen. I believe you. Giving the amygdala the moment it deserves on flirtations, to be honest.
You are amazing. I mean, hello. Yes.
Yeah, we've all got one. It's in that
We've
literal
all
brain.
got it. We've all
Yeah,
got it.
it's there.
We've all
Mhm.
got more than we think, though, right? We have this fear response
Yeah.
amygdala, and then this
Hmm.
anxiety amygdala adjacent part.
Mm.
It's called the BNST.
Okay.
And what that does is that screens for the lion that might be in the bushes, right? So
Okay.
it keeps us on edge when threats are unpredictable
Mm.
or ambiguous. And if this isn't dating, I don't know what is. In
Yeah,
dating, this looks like waiting for a text that doesn't
for sure.
come, not knowing how a date went, right? Wondering if
Hmm.
someone's tone meant disinterest, the ambiguity
All of it. Yep.
itself, blah, blah, blah. But then stress. We have to talk about stress. So, stress is
Okay.
the body's load. So, we have fear, we have anxiety, and then stress. Stress is the body's load. It's how all of that manifests in the body. It's our
Wow.
racing heart, it's our tight chest, it's our shallow breathing, it's our stress
Mm.
response.
Hmm.
And what happens is the more and more that we are stressed, the threshold is lowered, and we are
Okay.
primed so that even something small, like a small pause or an
Yeah.
ambiguous glance, can feel like a big threat. So we have that. We have fear, we have anxiety, we have
Yeah.
stress, and now we have worry.
Okay.
And worry is anxiety translated into words. And this is where the prefrontal cortex comes in.
Wow.
The
Hmm.
paradoxical prefrontal cortex that's involved in the what if thinking, right? I
Hmm.
need to e- find out what's going on in order to explain this alarm. And also,
Yeah.
it's responsible for putting the brakes on.
Yeah.
And so it just becomes this endless cycle. So here's where overthinking comes in. And tell me if I'm making this sound clear enough, because I'll.
Yeah, no, this is
Okay.
really, really helpful because you're giving words to all the different experiences that we're going to have when we do experience overthinking,
Mm,
where it's like anxiety. It's so if we've got like fear, which is maybe the emotion running the show, so to speak, which can manifest as overthinking. And then you have anxiety that gets embodied as stress, which then turns into worry. And so now I can start to see how like the roller coaster of emotions and dating
mm,
happens, where you feel like you
mhm.
can't get off. it's because you probably get stuck in these loops and these cycles, and all of these emotions get embodied. It's like that experience you were sharing where someone looks at you weird, or their tone was off, or like there's a slight subtle shift in energy, and
Mm.
now you go to like the what if, like the worst case scenario. This helps explain why.
Yeah. And fear is that basic response. That's almost like if someone's like arguing with you, right?
Okay.
It gets on and off. Anxiety is the engine
The
for
engine.
worry, for worry and overthinking mostly
Okay.
because it's predictive. It's an
Okay.
uncertainty. Fear is like, here's the threat
Yeah.
and now it's gone. um, and anxiety is what really drives worry and overthinking and the loops, and I'll get to those. And stress is just how fear and anxiety can manifest
Yeah.
in the body and become embodied. So yeah, worry is anxiety translated into words, I like to say, and we
Okay.
often use the terms interchangeably, but I think it's important to be precise. And
Yeah.
the prefrontal cortex is starts spinning, right? Because remember, the BNST amygdala like
Mm-hmm.
structure is
Mm-hmm.
like, you know, alarm.
Yes.
And then in order to explain what's going on, our prefrontal frontal cortex is like, what's going on?
Yeah.
What if I
Mm-hmm.
said too much? What if they're not interested? What if they're texting someone else?
Mm.
And worry branches into two control strategies. And
Okay.
one of
This
them is
is, yes, very interesting. I'm so glad you're going here, because all of this in many ways is the seeking of control. Yeah.
absolutely, but more
Yeah.
so like control, and not in a like pathological, derogatory, people like
Sure.
to say you're so controlling. It's literal safety,
Yeah.
right? Like our brain is seeking safety, and we often don't think about that. People throw
Mm-hmm.
around these terms with dating, or you're so needy, and you're
Mm.
so this, and you're so that. And I'm like, your brain is looking for certainty.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so these two branches are overthinking,
Okay.
which is like worry replayed. So that has to do with past and future loops. And perfectionism, I like to say, is like worry as armor. Like, how can I control the present? And how can I do things flawlessly so that
Okay.
I can feel better? And
Okay.
so, okay, so fear is danger now. Fear is danger now. Anxiety is danger maybe. Stress is how the body feels that load. Worry is its voice.
Okay.
And then from there, we have two strategies, right? Overthinking, replaying, or predicting, and or perfectionism, which is just armoring up so we look flawless.
Mm.
And I'm happy to now that we did this overview, I think a
Yes.
lot of things will kind of fit and make sense. So
Yes.
when the brain is overthinking, when we're overthinking, we're not being irrational.
Okay.
The brain wants certainty.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting how this might happen in dating, where I'm thinking about, right, the two kind of classic attachment styles of anxious and avoidant, right? They're both somewhat coming from this place of fear, looking to control the situation, just to
Yeah.
provide some certainty, just to bring some safety to an uncertain situation. Because, like you said, dating is going to be, it's uncertain at times. It can be unpredictable. We're dealing with other people who have entire lived experiences, their own thoughts, feelings, emotions, their own intentions, which aren't always revealed honestly and transparently up front, right? I've always said a lot of dating
Mm.
happens in the gray. It's not always black and white. It's pretty nuanced a lot of the times.
I think that's really well said. And I think when we refer to attachment styles, I think that brings in the understanding of like complex trauma, right? Because
Mm,
there's anxiety, which is like
yeah.
a future scanner, and then we have trauma, which is a past alarm.
Okay.
And so what happens is that, in dating, if we were traumatized
Mm-hmm.
at some point, and again, trauma, complex trauma, which is the relational trauma that happens over time, and the system changes. Like your threshold is like
Mm,
just like a hair trigger. The
yeah.
hippocampus memory part of the brain is like imprecise. It's like, is this now or then?
Yeah.
And the brain, to compensate, does this like pattern making. It's like, this looks like that, and then it's harder for the prefrontal cortex to break
Okay.
And it's so much easier to tire from stress. All this to say
Yeah.
that, right, we don't talk enough about how our prior experiences inform our current ones. So
Yeah.
if you were in a relationship um, that was, abusive or
Mm-hmm.
neglectful,
Mm-hmm.
and your needs weren't met,
Mm-hmm.
certain things are going to just sort of trigger you more so.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. I mean, trauma, it can, we've probably all heard that it gets stored in the body, but it can also, it can rewire your brain, right? Like it can actually
Oh,
change your
absolutely.
perception of the world, change your perception of yourself. Like I know, and whether it's, big T, little t, I think in many ways trauma is trauma, right? Something that's
Mm,
really difficult and
yeah,
painful for you, that it's almost like this overwhelm of your
yeah,
body's systems to
yeah.
handle what is happening in the moment. So
Mm.
it's like, okay, we're just gonna have to deal with this at some point. Like later, at some
Yeah,
point it's gonna come
yeah.
up. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's why for some people, you know, even a neutral like K, right? Like a
Mm,
text back K can
yeah.
like be so triggering, right? Because
Yes.
it's like it hits you like a truck. It's like this
Yeah.
tiny cue, and it's like our brains are trying to make sense. So it's like, okay, this must be rejection again. And then the
Yeah.
alarm, and then
Yeah.
survival. And then
Yes.
we cling or withdraw, people please, blah, blah, blah. And I don't
Yeah.
mean any of these terms in a derogatory way.
Sure.
It's
Sure.
just how we show up. And it makes sense. It's really about all about um past and
Yeah.
how that influences the present and then safety.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I hope this has been helpful for the Flirty so far. I know it has been for me, just giving some context to these different experiences of overthinking, stress, worry, anxiety, perfectionism, and why we're likely to have these experiences dating, right? There's some real biology
Yes.
behind it as our brain is doing a lot of the work for us subconsciously that we're just not always
Yeah.
aware of. Is it's just trying to keep us safe, bring some
Mm,
certainty, some predictability, some sense
that
of
part.
normalcy into this process, all the while trying to feel like we're good enough, right? We're worthy. Then we're dealing with that whole piece of
Well, I wanna get
things.
into that too.
Yes.
There's another element. I mean, there's another brain network that we have to talk about. But yeah, no,
Okay.
sorry I interrupted you.
No, all good. What's this? Let's go into the other.
Yeah.
What's the other brain network, Jen? What else is happening up there?
There's also what we call the default mode network. And
Okay.
a lot of us have heard this in relationship to age, ADHD, possibly because it's stickier in
Mm,
ADHDers. And
okay.
that network is the opposite of the task positive network. And that network is our narrator, our inner narrator, our storyteller.
Oh.
Um, it helps us understand who we are, why we are, what we are.
Mm-hmm.
And so once we're in that overthinking loop, and there are multiple loops that can happen, right? So overthinking can take many forms, right? You can
Yes.
ruminate on the past,
Yes.
you can try and predict the future, and then you can go into this like self-criticism spiral,
Yes.
because all in the name of like I need to find certainty. So for rumination, it's like I'm going to go in the past, I'm going to like pull up the old stuff and see where I made a mistake, and I'm going to
Yeah.
find the answer, so
Yeah.
things can be safer. And
Mm-hmm.
for prediction, it's just like there is no certainty because it's like open ended and there's no finish line. And then the self
Mm-hmm.
criticism is like you get some kind of answer.
Mm.
um it maps uncertainty
Okay.
onto worth, and that's a painful answer that just deepens the spiral. But anyway, the default mode network, that starts to tell the story of, oh, I'm not worthy, oh,
Yeah.
I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
And that's, yeah, I mean,
It's
if
hard.
the prefrontal cortex is our problem solver,
Yeah.
scenario builder, then the DMN, default
Mm-hmm.
mode network, is our
Yeah.
narrator,
Okay.
identity weaver, and then they collaborate. And
Yeah.
then the prefrontal cortex churns out these possibilities, and then the DMN turns them into, what does this mean about me?
Right.
And unfortunately, that often in dating leads to, I'm just not good enough, or
Yeah.
pick your core belief.
Yeah, whatever that core belief
But there
is.
are
I'm hard to
some,
love or
yeah, exactly.
something, yeah, I'm not good enough, like it's never going to happen for me. Like there's and you could have more than one, but for me it's yeah,
Mm,
it's that good enough. It's that quest for
mm,
enoughness which we've explored on flirtations in
yeah, yeah,
multiple ways, but it's like it's yeah, it's hard. None of this is easy, and I want to talk for a moment about the experience of embodiment too, because it's not as if all of this is just happening in our brain. You talked about it a little earlier in the interview where it could be the shortness of breath, the rapid heartbeat,
mm,
you get warm, you start sweating, something like that. But it could also be nervous system shutdown. Maybe you start to
mm,
feel kind of numb or just emotionally
yeah,
withdrawn. And so I want to talk about what is happening in
yeah,
the body as well. When sometimes, right, it's just that classic anxiety versus intuition. And so how we
mm,
can start to mm, just start to understand what's happening in our bodies as well.
yeah. I mean, I think that's a really good question. We have two modes,
Mm.
and not to be so black and white about it, but we can either go towards the shut up, or shut not, that's not even a term, but we can either go to
I,
this.
I think I know where you're going. We've got two neuro spicy people on the show today.
Exactly. My God. This is like a neuro spicy circus. I love it. But I love how you see me and get me. So thank
I
you.
completely I see where we're going. I see the vision, Jen. Yes.
Thank you. So basically, in terms of it's felt, and in
Ah,
order to stay safe, it's an alarm.
yeah.
And that alarm shows up very blatantly, like
Okay.
with, like you said, right? Like the sweating, um, the shallow breath, the
Mhm.
tense,
Yeah, like
tensing.
the as you're like putting your
Yeah,
shoulders kind of up by the ears kind of thing. Yeah.
exactly.
Mhm.
And then there's this other kind of way to deal with this alarm, and that is to shut down.
Yeah.
And that's harder to notice.
Yeah.
That numbing is harder to notice.
Mhm.
And that's where I think some of these somatic practices
Yeah.
really start to become helpful for
Yeah.
people. But I think numbness disconnects you, and
Yeah.
it's protective, right? It's a
Mhm.
protective mechanism,
Mhm.
right? You've been hurt before.
Mhm.
And so you're trying to put distance between the hurt and you.
Yeah.
And while that might be, you know, protective,
Mhm.
we can't selectively numb.
Okay.
So if we numb the pain, we numb the joy. And we start to kind of live our life in this, like, just,
Yeah.
I'm looking
It's
for a
almost
word.
like this emotional flatlining
Yes.
in a
Yes.
sense where it can be I don't want to use the term masking here, but a little bit performative. It's kind of putting the smile on
Mm,
your face, going through the motions.
going through the motions. That's what
It
I'm
can
looking
be
for.
even someone you have in your life, or maybe you're that person. Could be a
Mm,
friend, and it seems like everything's okay, but underneath
mm,
there's just it's that disconnection, right? It's
yeah.
the what does my
Mm,
intuition want? What is it telling
mm,
me? What do I even want to do with my day? What do I like what goals do I have? What
yeah.
desires do I
Yeah.
have? And I've definitely been in that headspace and just in that experience in my career, in my dating life, as well. It's difficult. It's difficult. It's hard to admit to yourself and it's
Yeah.
hard to talk about.
No, and I really
Yeah.
respect that you're talking about it, and same, I've been there too, and people think, "Oh, that sounds lovely. Let me just numb and avoid life." And it's a really I think that's the misconception, that it's this
Yeah.
lovely experience, but it really doesn't feel good. It's like
No.
literally like walking through quicksand, and like life
Yes.
just passes you by and you're
Yes.
disconnected from self and from others. Right? So even it's not exactly the same as hyper focus at all. So I don't want to make that.
Mhm.
comparison.
Mhm.
It's similar, but people think hyper focus. Oh wow, you're so on, and I'm like, it's not comfortable. Like I haven't peed in 3 hours,
Yeah,
like you
it's
said
not
on the top of
it's
this
not
episode, right? Like,
it's not amazing as yeah, before hitting record, we're recording this about 4 p.m. in the afternoon. I just ate lunch, Jen, right before I remembered, Benjamin, eat something.
yes, and I'm very
Yes.
glad that you did.
Thank you. I'm so glad I did. I was like, you know what? I need something before we start this interview. Right. Eat.
Exactly,
Have some
exactly,
water.
exactly.
Yeah.
Hydrate, have some water,
Hydrate.
attend to your needs.
Yes. But as you were sharing a moment ago, it's this if we're in that space of emotional numbness, also it's yeah, we can avoid maybe some of the more uncomfortable emotions, but also the good ones too.
Yeah,
We don't always get to have those. And then the flip side of this is once we start to work on our healing and self-compassion, all that good stuff, it is almost easier to feel numb, maybe to
mm,
not have a lot of those expectations, those wants, desires, those dreams, the
yeah.
visions, all of that, because then when you start to mm, like letting the goodness in again is
It's
hard.
very hard for people, and
Yeah.
my mind is like overwhelmed because there are so many avenues to take this.
Hmm.
Um, but I will say that, like I said before, it's very protective
Yeah.
because it prevents hurt.
Yeah.
However, we start to close ourselves off to
Hmm.
experiences that can be so joyful and so
Yeah.
loving and so meaningful. And I think part of why we do this is because we don't want to be disappointed, right? So I
Yeah.
see a lot of people, and I've done this myself. Oh my gosh.
Hmm.
In my 20s, early 30s, I was easier it was easier to be like, I'm disconnected. I don't have to do this
Yeah.
so that I wouldn't be disappointed or get hurt. It's almost like saves us. But then you're just like lonely.
Yeah.
And
I hear what you're saying, and I relate to a lot of it. And I wonder if this, like what we're talking about, is really kind of at the core, or at least part of the core of what's happening in dating and relationships right now,
mm,
where there's a lot of us are just in that shutdown mode, overwhelm, burnout, a place of stress, of just feeling let down and disappointed so many times, right? I don't want to get my hopes up again, kind of
yeah.
thing. And so we sort of, but we still crave connection, right? We still want that
Mm,
emotional vulnerability and the intimacy, like that need, which is
mm,
biological, doesn't go away. And so, how do we seek it out? Maybe we go more into hookup culture. Not saying that's bad or wrong, but
right.
it's not in place of more kind of formal relationships, right? Or maybe we find ourselves
I mean,
in the
drugs
yeah,
or
drugs, I mean
alcohol. Yeah.
alcohol, it could be the situationshipy, those kind of casual non-committal relationships we find ourselves in, where we
Yeah.
really desire something more, but maybe this is
This
as,
is
as good as
safer.
it gets. This
Yeah.
is safer in some
Yes.
ways. Yeah.
Exactly. And we're
Yeah.
all about safety, right? Our brain
Yeah.
is about safety. And again, there's nothing wrong with you. It actually means that your brain, mind, body, brain are working for you. It's just not
Absolutely.
in an iteration that's going to bring you
Yeah.
contentedness and joy. It's not an iteration that
Yeah.
gives you what we've evolved to be able to receive.
Yeah.
It's still just safe, just safe. Okay, so I'll just
Absolutely.
casually hook up. I'm safe. But
Hmm.
you said something that just intrigued me,
Uh-huh.
and I want to talk about.
Okay.
I mentioned it before, but what I notice and a lot of people talk about is so I said it before that once you're stressed, right? Once the body carries the load,
Uh-huh.
either from fear or anxiety, like worry, whatever it is, our threshold is lowered. And
Yeah.
so literal neutral cues could become like a big question of uncertainty.
Sure.
The reason I'm saying this is because in modern life,
Hmm.
I think we show up already dysregulated
I
and
agree.
already at a stress capacity that is just un
It's it's
It's
unsustainable.
unsustainable,
Yeah.
unsustainable,
Yeah.
and so when we're going already into dating, it's like
Yeah.
we're already, like, braced, like, hair trigger, it's like a
Yeah.
pau what did that pause mean? And that's
Mhm.
because our we are so primed, our system is so primed already
Mhm.
from all the stress, right? We're
Mhm.
tired and dysregulated, and so even a small little pause or
Absolutely.
ambiguous glance just feels like a really big threat.
Yeah.
Which is why regulation is so important.
Definitely. Yeah, and I hope the Flirties feel empowered here and are
Yeah.
having, an aha moment or two or three about like that thing that seemed so inconsequential early in dating or on a first date or a fifth date. And you're like, why did this bother me so much?
Mm,
Maybe why did I have such a reaction to it?
yes.
This helps
Yes.
explain it helps explain
Yeah.
why. Yeah.
And I
Hmm.
wanna destigmatize that, right?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
I think people are so hard on themselves. I mean,
Definitely.
we're all hard on ourselves, but especially when it comes to dating,
Yeah.
right? Because that sense of, like, belonging is just, like, this
Yeah.
intrinsic, like, need. Literally, we survived because we were in groups. And
Yes.
so the sense of belonging still that right that like we needed way back
Yeah.
when
Yeah.
has continued. The thread is still
It's
there
still
and it
there.
shows up. It's just
Absolutely.
we're not putting the same words to it and we're just, we're mislabeling it and people are just being hard on themselves. And so
Yeah.
this is my love letter to the flirties. And I want to
Yes.
say your brain is not broken.
No.
Your brain is doing what it's meant to do.
Yeah.
We just have to teach it that it's safe and can allow other experiences in.
Belonging is so important. I don't feel like it's I'm glad you mentioned it. I don't feel like it's a word that gets brought up a lot, but it also can partly explain if in dating relationships, if we don't feel like we have close connected friendships or a close relationship with
Mhm.
our family, or
Yeah.
we feel right, quote unquote, different,
Mm.
this sense of belonging, it's still there, but maybe it
Mm.
plays out. We're kind of hyper focused in our dating lives and our relationships of wanting to be picked, chosen, right? Feeling good enough, feeling worthy, all of that. Just yeah, something that was coming to mind. And before
Yeah.
we conclude the conversation, I want to come back to the term perfectionism for a
Oh
moment.
boy.
We've talked a lot about the overthinking, stress, worry, anxiety, but I'm really curious how
Yeah.
perfectionism ties into this need for perhaps control. Yeah.
Yeah, so we named overthinking, right, as a branch
Yeah.
of worry. And the other common branch of worry is perfectionism.
Okay.
And so if we think of it as this way, like overthinking is the loop, right? We replay the past, we try to predict the future, we criticize ourselves in the
Hmm.
moment. Perfectionism is the armor. If I do it just right, I won't get hurt or
Yeah.
rejected, right? This is where our masks come on. This is like think performative, right?
Yeah.
Overthinking keeps you in your head, and perfectionism keeps you in this performative loop instead of being yourself.
Okay.
And at its core, perfectionism is anxiety's attempt to control uncertainty by building, like I said, I keep saying this, but I really believe it. It's this armor,
Hmm.
right? It's we narrow in on the present. Like
Mm.
if I do everything flawlessly right now,
Yeah.
maybe I won't be rejected and
Yeah.
maybe I won't be judged and maybe I will be good enough. And
Yeah.
this comes from a deeper belief that you kept alluding to, that
Yeah.
if I don't get it right, I'll lose love or belonging.
Yeah.
And can you imagine that? If I don't get this right, I'll lose belonging.
Yeah.
Like I just got the chills because we don't say that enough, how important that
Mm.
belief might be
Yeah.
for someone. I mean, of course we're engaged in these tactics, this
Yeah.
overthinking and perfectionism. I like
Yeah.
to think of myself as a recovering perfectionist.
Oh my gosh.
My friends
Me
and
too,
my
Jen.
friends and I text all the time about this. We're like, it's a practice. It's a practice. But
It's yeah.
when you think about it in those terms, right?
Yeah.
Like if I don't get it right, I'll lose love or belonging. It's like, of
It's
course I'm going to try to get it
yeah,
right.
really all or nothing. You throw in some ADHD, maybe a touch of OCD, and oh my god.
Ooh, I
Oh my
mean,
God.
I literally want to come on to talk about ADHD because,
Yeah,
well, I will say, if it's okay, for neurodivergent
absolutely.
people, for
Uh-huh.
neurodivergent folks, right? So that could be ADHD and or
Mhm.
autism and other
Mhm.
neurodivergencies.
Yes.
OCD, of which OCD is considered that too.
Mhm.
Um, whatever we just explained is like amplified, like
Yes.
times, like I don't know. I'm not saying this like 100, but I don't know the
Whatever
exact,
the number is,
but
it's
whatever
big.
the number is, but the whole cycle isn't just louder, it's just like
Yeah,
stickier. And that's not a weakness, that's wiring, right? Because like
that's
the
wiring.
prefrontal cortex, doesn't apply the brakes as well. Already
Mhm.
it's loaded with the task of
Mhm.
executive functions, which are
Mhm.
problematic in ADHD.
Yeah.
The default I'm talking to ADHD right now. The
Mhm.
default mode network can be harder to disengage from. So
Okay.
in a neurotypical brain, whatever that means,
Air
if
quotes,
this
whatever
is
that
the
means. Yeah.
right, if this is the default mode network and this is the task positive network, right? They're
Okay.
supposed to go like this, very right. But with ADHD, when the task positive wants to come on, it's like the default network is like, I'm not shutting down. And what
Yeah.
we get is like this background noise and rumination and
Yes.
stickiness. And then, not to mention the dopamine dysregulation.
Yes. As you were just, if for anyone listening, the visual you just had, you're holding two colored blocks in your hand,
Yes.
as if these two things, the default mode network and what was the other one
The
again?
task
The
positive network.
task positive network, kind of looking to balance each other out
Yeah.
in the quote unquote neurotypical. But for the neurodivergent, they're kind of moving a little fast. There's some friction. They're bumping into each other. One's up
Exactly.
here, one's down here. They're not always
It
speaking the
doesn't
same language.
it's sticky. It
It's
doesn't
sticky.
shut off as well when the task positive, right? Like, oh, now it's time to just silently perform a task.
Yeah.
And our ruminative, self-reflective
Oh my
narrator is going
gosh.
to shut down. I mean,
Hmm.
no, it's
Yeah.
not.
Oh
So
my gosh. This has been somehow we're already at time.
what? No.
I think we've talked about everything, Jen. I think.
I mean, I want to give solutions, but
That's the last piece. We are going to
okay.
get to the
Yeah.
solution. So before we are, as we conclude the conversation, rather,
Yeah.
some solutions for the flirties. Of course, we got to set them up for success.
I mean, the truth is there is so much more to talk about, and this is like
I know.
12 sessions. So
Yeah.
thank you for having me on.
Yeah.
I know I
Yeah.
get passionate and I make long story long, and
I love it.
I'm gonna have self-compassion for that. I
Yeah.
really just want your listeners to feel held and to feel like this is wiring, like nothing's
Mm-hmm.
wrong with me, like I
Mm-hmm.
just want to feel safe, right? And
Yes.
like some things been happened in my past that made it harder to feel safe now,
Mm-hmm.
or you know I'm just scanning for threats because that's what my brain does.
Yep.
And since I'm in this stressful world, my threshold is lower, and that makes it much easier to interpret ambiguity and pauses and K,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The K
right?
text. Yes.
So in terms of solutions, so what could we do? I always like to name the loop.
Okay.
So name it. This is rumination, this is prediction, or this is armor, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is self-criticism, like,
Okay.
or I'm in the what if loop right now. And I think naming something takes away its power.
Yeah. I mean, just the metaphorical, right? Lion, tiger in the woods,
Yep.
in the jungle. Like, oh, I no longer, it's not an unknown. I know what it is. Right.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
it gives you this faux control over, like,
Yes.
I know what's going on. I'm
Mm-hmm.
ruminating. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I know what's going on. Like, I'm putting on the armor, right? It's like,
Yeah.
I know what's up. It's awareness. Awareness
Awareness.
can't be underestimated. To me, that's
Okay.
number one. Awareness that this is going on.
Okay.
And then I would say, externalize some of the thoughts. So journal, voice note, text,
Yeah.
brain dump, basically. So like
Okay.
brain dump the what ifs before a date, then leave the notebook closed. Just get it out, get it out, get
Okay.
it out, get it out. And then regulate your physiology. That is
Mm.
so important because of everything that we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Slow, longer exhales.
Yeah.
Feet pressed to the ground. Of course,
Oh,
I just do want to say slow, longer exhales. Do it as you feel safe, right? I just
okay.
want to do it so that your body doesn't feel threatened. So if breath
Yeah.
work doesn't work for you, try something else. Just wanted to
Yeah.
put that caveat in.
That's a good
Um,
one. Yeah.
Feet pressed to the ground, shake it out,
Mm-hmm.
move, maybe a
I
warm mug, you
yes. I do
know.
all of this minus the mug in my yoga classes.
Yes,
Yeah, we
yoga.
definitely focus
Yeah.
on the breathing. I focus a lot on
Mm,
grounding, offering a lot of those cues, pressing into the mat, soles of the
yeah,
feet on the mat, heels the
exactly.
toes, all the things, and awareness.
And
Yeah,
what this will
that's a great
do
one. Hmm.
is, and I mean, I have more, more ideas, but I think those three are, important. What
Definitely.
that will do though, what regulation will do
Hmm.
is will help us at baseline feel less threatened
Okay.
going into a date.
Okay.
And I think that's really important, where we
Yes.
undervalue how regulating can really help us in all the ways. So it's not just like, oh, I have trauma, so I need to regulate. It's like, no, I'm going on a date and I need
Yeah.
to regulate my system so that I can go in. And when someone glances that way, I don't misinterpret it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think that's really important. And then, of course, I love saying to reframe perfectionism, which is such
Reframe.
a funny one because it's like, how do you reframe perfectionism? But it's a practice. So just get right going from how do I get this right to how can I get curious? It's just this
yes.
little kind of reframe, right?
Yeah.
And then, what I love to tell my clients, I don't tell them what to do. I just,
Hmm.
offer guidance and
Hmm.
they take
Hmm.
it or
Yeah.
not and we talk it through. And I think what softens the dating experience right off the bat is sharing like one small imperfect truth. Like I'm a little nervous right now.
Hmm.
And then actually that retrains the system,
Hmm.
our brain, that vulnerability can feel safe.
Yeah. Okay.
So name the loop,
Okay.
externalize the thoughts. So
Okay.
dump,
Yep.
regulate, like regulate your physiology,
Hmm.
reframe perfectionism from how do I get this right to how can I become more curious? And then this micro authentic moment
Yeah.
where you share one small thing so that your
Hmm.
system can learn that vulnerability isn't a threat, it's
Right.
actually safe, right? Because we didn't even get to talk about this, but one of the triggers for anxiety and overthinking and perfectionism is vulnerability and
Hmm.
being vulnerable, or the other person being vulnerable, et cetera, et
Hmm.
cetera. So anyway, I'm
Yeah.
going over time and there's much.
This was all so good, kind of coming full circle back to the start of the
Yeah.
conversation about alignment in many ways. All of
Mm,
this is gonna help you act and just be more in alignment with who you are, what you want, how you want to connect, how you want to
mm,
flirt, how you want to date. So you don't read into, oh my gosh, they just like pulled out their phone, or oh, that tone was weird. Oh, why would they ask me that question? Or
mm.
oh, this vulnerability feels very uncomfortable. You're just going to be able to be more present, more aware, and then you're just gonna be able to be rather than like in your head. You're thinking, you're in
Yeah.
worry, you're in stress mode. It's all a practice. It's all so helpful. Huh?
Practice makes practice.
That's right. And
But I
head
also, can I say one more thing?
of course, yeah.
I really want to say this. It's one of the most simple yet not easy things that I learned in my
Mm.
life. And I'm sure it's not mine. Many have said it. But most people aren't thinking about you. They're thinking
It's true. It's true.
about themselves. Not in this, and I'm not even bringing in like ego, narcissism, literally. Like you're worried going on the date, and the other person is most likely
Yeah.
matching your worry, if not more worried. And I
It's
think we
true.
forget this.
It's true. Yeah, that's a good point. And I was going to say, I always say, come to my yoga classes. And most people cannot, but you can go. I've got some flirt yoga videos on YouTube, which I'm always adding to some mini practices that you can do right in your home, your apartment, wherever. You don't need any experience, no props, nothing like that. So we can do a little bit of yoga, regulate. I can at least help you with that
Yes,
piece.
please. Please
And
regulate.
Jen is going to help you with all of the pieces. Where can the Flirties find you, follow you, learn more, and if you're accepting new clients?
Yeah, so thank you. Right now, accepting just neuropsych
Neuropsych.
clients and
Okay.
ADHD. Yeah. I have a book coming out in 2026. It's not
Yes.
there yet. I have a new website being made. I do have a book called Quick Calm. It's easy
Okay.
meditations to short circuit stress through using mindfulness and
Okay.
neuroscience. So if someone wants that book, but really just reach out on Instagram and or Facebook and just say, hey, I listened and this resonated, and I'll give you a little answer back. Obviously, I'm not your therapist, but
Right.
like I just want to be available and like continue the conversation and make sure that people know that um, they're not broken.
Yes. Yes.
So
Thank
that's
you.
Dr. Jen Wolkin and ADHD with Dr. Jen, and you'll put all the info.
Oh,
I'm
yeah. I'll have your links in the show notes below for this episode, the socials, your website. Please, Flirties, reach out to, follow, connect with Dr. Jen on all the platforms, any platform. Jen, thank you so, so much for being on the show today. This was just amazing and wonderful to connect and record with you.
Thank you. This was wonderful. I love flirting with you. More soon.
More flirting, Jen, more flirting.
Yes, please.